more bad news for the Lakers. Dave McMenamin is reporting that LeBron James has left the road trip and will not play against the Jazz tonight. Anthony Davis is, of course, listed as doubtful, which I think he's been listed his whole career probably as doubtful. All right. Dave McMenamin with me now from Utah. Dave, what else can you tell us about LeBron James and Anthony Davis's injuries?
Yeah, for the second time this season, Max, LeBron has left a Lakers road trip before it ended to go back to Los Angeles to rehab, which tells you a little bit about how the year has gone for LeBron and this team. Anthony Davis is in Salt Lake City, but I'm told he will not play tonight against the Jazz, and they'll look ahead to trying to do something tonight, but tomorrow is the big date on the calendar. They have a date with the number 9 New Orleans Pelicans, the team that they were up 23 points against Sunday in New Orleans before LeBron turned his ankle, and the Pelicans were able to make that comeback in the second half. Now, both LeBron and AD potentially could play Friday against the Pelicans. I'm told the likelihood of AD at this point seems more realistic than LeBron at this point, but Adrian Wojnarowski reported about an hour ago that LeBron will indeed test out his ankle Friday at Crypto.com Arena to try to come back at the same time as Anthony Davis. Of course, we don't know if Anthony Davis will be able to do it, but Anthony has been targeting that game against the Pelicans for about a week now.
What's Frank Vogel saying about this stretch right now for the team, Dave?
Well, I mentioned that game, Max, Sunday in New Orleans. Prior to it, Frank Vogel addressed his team and said, our playoffs start now. Some teams, the playoffs begin when the regular season ends. Sometimes the playoffs begin when you're in that final couple of games. But they're down 0-2, and right now they need to play a lot better than they did in Dallas. There was very little hope from what you saw on the court there. I mentioned to Russell Westbrook after the game, well, you are playing a Jazz team that you've played pretty well this season, have 2 wins against them. He said that means absolutely nothing, especially with the way they played against the Mavericks. And so you're going to see, a hodgepodge lineup again, guys like Stanley Johnson, Austin Reeves, looking to make a name for themselves, Malik Monk. Frank Vogel will tell you if they don't play with better defensive intensity, they'll have absolutely no shot against a Jazz team that they have their own motivation going into tonight. They blew a 25-point lead against Clippers the other night, and they're on a 5-game losing streak trying to get right back at home.
Speaking of disappointing teams, this is the all-disappointment game, Lakers-Jazz. We'll see who's least disappointing. Thank you, Dave McMenamin. LeBron is currently on pace to win his first scoring title since 2008. Leads the league at 30 points a game, but needs to play 3 more games to qualify for the title. He needs to average 27 points in those games to win the scoring title, assuming the next players in line don't exceed their current scoring averages. So if everyone just stays with what they do, LeBron's going to have to average 27 points, and even just to qualify, Dave Jacoby, he's going to too many Daves. Jacoby, he's going to have to play in 3 more games. So what should the Lakers and LeBron's approach be, do you think?
If you are LeBron James, you look at the team goals first. Can we win a championship? We know now that is a hard no. I mean, they have to win 2 games to play the Suns in a 7-game series. No chance. So
which they might not be able to do.
Yes, no chance. So then they start looking at individual goals. If you're LeBron James, you're 37 years old. The oldest player to win a scoring title in the NBA is Michael Jeffrey Jordan. He did it at 34. That would be just a nice little feather in the cap for LeBron James' career. However, there is this little requirement of playing 58 games of the regular season, which he has not met. He is also injured. Now, they don't do this by total points, which they should. They do it by points per game, which they should not.
Why?
It should be how many points did you score this year, not how many points did you score when you're playing the game.
Wait a minute. In baseball, that'd be like the hits leader versus the batting average leader. 2 different things you're keeping track of, right? I mean, why can't you do both?
Okay. I'm not going down this path with you right now, but you're wrong. I just want you to know that. Because you get more at-bats, then you get more hits, blah, 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 blah. My point here is you get the same amount of opportunity to play in the 82 games, right? Let's not go down that path.
Roughly.
Okay.
I mean, okay.
Exactly. I just heard you saying roughly is basically
sort of.
That's as close to a "you're right" from Max Kellerman you're ever gonna get.
No, I think it's very like hits and batting average.
So you think the scoring leader should be the person that led scoring, scored the most points?
I think that's the total points leader, but it doesn't give you the same idea of how potent they are in any given game, right?
No, I want the person who scored the most points to be the scoring leader.
Okay.
So LeBron James can't just play in these games. He has to play in 3 of them in order to qualify. Somebody tells me he knows that. So he's going to pick and choose his competition. And he's nursing this ankle so he can't go out and score 14, 15 points and try to help the team win.
Wait, you're saying that LeBron not only already knows what he's, like, how many games he has to play to qualify, but knows who he's most likely to score the most against?
Oh, I think
and
he's
what he
looked
needs
at the
to
upcoming
score?
games. They don't have a soft schedule when you look at the games that they have coming up.
No.
There are some tough defenses that they have to play. They're probably not even going to make the plan, but there are some games against the Thunder, a couple games against the Nuggets that I think that he will pick and choose. I do not expect him to play against the Pelicans on this Friday, but I think that when he goes to sleep at night, he says, not let's win a championship for the Lakers and the Laker fan base. He says, let's win a scoring championship for my Lakers.
I don't blame him. I mean, one is impossible at this point. The other's still possible. Why not? Is Big Perk calling his shot with this tweet last night, Jacoby? He said, Suns versus Grizzlies in the Western Conference Finals going to be epic. Carry the hell on. 3 exclamation points. Sounds like he has his mind made up on who's going to be playing for a spot in the NBA Finals. Jacoby, I was the first person I'd heard say that Ja Morant, I did it on this show, had a chance to be Finals MVP.
Finals MVP!
He had a chance to be Finals MVP.
Oh,
That's
wow.
Right.
Wow.
That's right. He had a chance.
There is no question in my mind that these are the 2 best teams in the Western Conference, right? There's also no question in my mind that if they were to play in the Western Conference Finals, this would be a 5-game series and the Suns would win. This Suns team is head and shoulders.
Wait, a 5-game series?
5-game series.
You do
Not
realize
even close.
without Ja, who is a great player, they're 18-2, right?
19-2.
Excuse me, I can't even keep up.
I know they won last night.
19-2. Wait, Dave, they say after, 26 games, you have a good idea of it's a big enough sample to know who's going to finish where? They're
It's
almost
wild.
at that sample.
It's wild. I
They're
don't believe what they are doing without Ja Morant, but when you look at what the Suns are doing, when you look at what the Suns did last night, Chris Paul back, what he can do in the waning minutes of a game, there's just no team that's beating the Suns in a 7-game series in the Western Conference. No chance.
What?
Would
you rather have the ball in their hand at the end of the game? Booker, Chris Paul, or Ja?
This is great for the Grizzlies. Last year, make the playoffs. This year, make the Western Conference Finals. Next year, we can start talking about them.
I love Chris Paul and I love Devin Booker. At the end of the game, if I had to choose any one of those 3 guys, I'm giving the ball to Ja Morant. Who are you giving the ball to?
Chris Paul.
Okay, he hasn't won a championship yet, and this is his latest best chance to win one. At a certain point, you're like, well, maybe there are just better players, right?
No.
No?
No. I mean, you would rather have Ja Morant have the ball in the waning seconds of a
Yeah.
game than Chris Paul.
Yeah, he's better. Yeah.
I would not.
Okay.
I would not.
Okay. I mean, Chris Paul's an all-time great, but, where he ranks depends on if he gets a championship, if he's constantly on playoff powerhouses. Coming up. Who's the most important player? What's up, everybody? I'm Max Kellerman. Welcome to This Just In, a fast-paced look around the world of sports and how I see it. We start in the NBA with LeBron James and Anthony Davis sidelined. Luka Doncic and the Mavericks set a record against the Los Angeles Lakers last night with 82 points in the first half. The Lakers lost, of course, 128-110. LA is now 11th in the West and out of the play-in tournament. Joining me now, 2 days in a row, I get Wendy with me. Look at this. What did I do? I must have been good this year. Wendy, you have to be in the bottom third of the league to miss the postseason nowadays. 10 out of 15 teams make it. This Lakers season has been impressive from that point of view. They've got 3 Hall of Famers. Where do they go from here? They got more. They got like 4 Hall of Famers.
Okay. So, all right, bad news first. It doesn't look like LeBron's going to play tomorrow in Utah. It doesn't look like AD is going to be ready for that. I don't like their chances in that game. I know that's not exactly a hot take. This weekend, hopefully AD comes back either Friday or Sunday. And so hopefully LeBron's able to return. So what you're hoping for if you're the Lakers, if you do indeed want to make the play-in tournament, is that you get those guys back, and specifically for that either Pelicans or Nuggets game, you got those home games to try to, those are 2 winnable games, and that puts you in position. And you got to root like heck for the Memphis Grizzlies tonight in San Antonio, because next 2 games for the Spurs are home games against the Blazers, who are tanking. But the last thing you want, if we are still talking about the play-in, you don't want, by the time AD gets back this weekend, you to be down 2 or 3 games, because I don't think they can come back from that.
And yet, if AD does get back and he cleans things up defensively for the Lakers, look, is it reasonable to conclude that part of the reason I think it is that they get Westbrook is because LeBron's like, I'm hurt a lot, AD's hurt a lot at this point in their careers. Westbrook can carry the team in our absence.
That was the idea.
Right, that's the idea. But the point is, if the roster's not constructed for LeBron to win without the two superstars' help, how is Westbrook supposed to do it, who serves a similar function, right? Is Westbrook being framed here to look worse than he actually is?
No, because he can't really look much worse. He has actually not played that badly over the last month. If you go look at his splits,
That's what I'm saying.
his performance in March has been okay relative to where he was earlier.
Wendy, Stan Van Gundy made this point. He's doing the same thing he always does, but they're losing. Well, that's because there are no shooters around him. It's poorly constructed, right?
Okay, but see, the Westbrook trade is catastrophic, not just because Westbrook doesn't fit. It's because what they traded for him undercut what they did, which was 3 and D, shooting and defense. They were the number. This is such an important thing. They were the #1 defensive team in the whole league last year. They were better than the Bucks. The Bucks played some of the best defense in the history of the league in the postseason. The Lakers were better than them in over 82 games or however many they played last year. And so it's the combination of those two things, Westbrook not fitting and them cutting their depth. And then you throw in the AD injury, and I guess I'll say the Kendrick Nunn injury too, because he's going to miss the whole year. And he was their